And I just remember sitting there thinking, oh shit, I grew up in a cult. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Tea Time with Boris. Today we're drinking a Japanese hojicha, which is a very unique green tea because its tea leaves are roasted over charcoal at high temperature. Now, grab some tea, hold on to your butts, because this is going to be a doozy. So I grew up in a spiritual organization called Siddha Shiva Yoga, an organization with about 500 members all over the world, with centers in Escondido, Las Vegas, New York, Rome, Milan, and Ghent, where I was born and raised. My parents brought me in when I was 2 years old, and I walked away when I was 17. It's always been an organization that has raised questions in society, in the Belgian media, but nothing ever stuck. Until now. It centers around its founder, Guru Armondo Linus Acosta, who claims to be one of the 40 self-realized beings on Earth, and presented as a spiritual yoga community in the Hindu tradition, mixed with Hollywood pizzazz and creative artistic expression. Siddha Shiva Yoga is a personality cult. Yes, I'm calling it a cult. I see you, lawyer person. The group demanded complete devotion to Guru Acosta and required us to constantly display positivity, joy, gratitude, spirituality, especially the children. Siddha Shiva Yoga was founded by Guru Acosta towards the end of the 80s. His ideology is of spirituality being some sort of ladder. A ladder you climb all the way up to enlightenment. The closer you are to him, the higher you are on this ladder, naturally. So, shocking, your devotion, it needed to be seen. You could be as devoted as you wanted to be. If other people didn't take notice of it, if Guru Acosta did not see you be devoted, it didn't mean a thing. So you constantly had people vying for his affection, his attention. You had to be seen, otherwise it didn't matter. It's kind of like if you went to the gym and you didn't Instagram about it, did you really go to the gym? Nothing really existed beyond his ideology and his person. There were no real official books that you could read. The ideology, the religious tenets weren't really from anywhere. They were just kind of cobbled together by Acosta himself. And strangely enough, all of this sort of Hindu facade sort of got mixed with Catholicism, of all things. Lots of crucifixes and a strong desire of Acosta to be associated with the Pope. All of his disciples have lived millions of lifetimes, I forget the actual number, and have arrived at his doorstep, having accrued all of this good karma to finally be blessed to be a disciple of him in this lifetime. Enter the children. How blessed are they that they have accrued so much good karma that they were able to meet Acosta so much earlier in life. The children were referred to as the princes and princesses of humanity. Talk about big expectations. Guru Acosta seemed to love these children, but he loved boys a bit more. There was always some favorite boy that was taken under Acosta's wing for at least a few years. So enlightenment was presented as this spiritual ladder that you climb. The closer you are to Guru Acosta, naturally the higher you are on the spiritual ladder. But what does that also mean in a community, in a group of people? It means that the higher you are on that spiritual ladder, the higher you are on the social ladder as well. And thus begins the game. The game where everyone is wearing a mask and has a dagger behind their back so that they can use people and leapfrog them to get higher on this ladder. So what did life mean in this organization? Well, you would have strongly encouraged chantings, communal chantings at 9 p.m. every single day, about 50 minutes topped off with a meditation. There would be discourse given by Acosta himself. Sometimes this would be once or twice a week, very much a stream of consciousness for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and sometimes once a week, sometimes intermittently. there would be this concept called darshan, a one-on-one little interaction where the follower, the devotee, brings a little offering to the guru, and then Acosta, with a bundle of peacock feathers, would smack them around the face and pass along the divine energy. Followers did not live in a commune, but organically clustered around the main temple, you started having this community. There were pictures of Acosta everywhere, in every room you went. And this is, when you look back at it, in what I've researched, is very clear in personality cults, is the founder's worship. But of course, there's more. Behind the facade of spirituality lies a lot of darkness. A Belgian national newspaper just published an article where a bunch of people have come forward stating emotional abuse and also the sexual abuse of themselves as young adults or as minors. Here you go. Have some more tea. Take a seat. The outside world was very much demonized, even if I personally would call this called a semi-transparent bubble. You could still participate in things that happened in society. Most of your world was encouraged to be with the followers only, just inside the community. All ties that you had outside of it were broken. The parental unit superseded by Acosta. Familial bonds that you would have with your parents, with your siblings, were systematically degraded. Every relationship in this cult was triangular. Everything revolved around being a disciple of Acosta. If somebody broke that relationship of being a disciple to him, that other relationship broke as well. There was very much an expectation that being a disciple of Guru Acosta remained your number one priority in life. Whatever romantic relationships you would have, whatever else you would do in life, that had to remain at number one. Happiness very much became a performative thing. Joy especially, it didn't matter what you did. You could be creating art, you could be going about your daily life, you could be having sex. As long as you could tell your guru, I did this with thoughts of joy for you, that's all that mattered. However, if you dared to show joy that was not connected to Acosta in any way, joy out of experiencing life, or watching a sunrise, or creating something cool, or whatever it is that you personally as an individual felt passionate about, and you presented him with, look at this wonderful thing that I did, it just made me so happy, but it wasn't connected to him, he would lash out at you. I learned there was an emotional revenge that happened afterwards. He would beat you back down. One of the tried and true techniques, excommunication, framed as yogic holiday, where he sent you away for whatever reason, because again, omniscience, you wouldn't even know, you mere poor mortal that hasn't even broken through the cycle of reincarnation. He would just send you on your way, and no one else was supposed to talk to you or interact with you in any way until he would invite you back. Could be whenever. Oh, but there's more. They ended up creating a school. Around 2001, 2002, Guru Acosta decided that Belgian education was terrible. It would completely destroy these children's lives, and he wanted them taken out of their schools and put into the school that was going to be erected within the community. Belgium has an education system where it is mandatory for you to be enrolled in some sort of educational program until you're 18 or until you've obtained your high school degree. So there was an opportunity there for a non-officially designated community where the children would learn, essentially homeschooling, and would then participate in national exams that were organized by a national service. 30 or so kids actually went to that school, myself included. I was 12. I surmised that the intention here was never to artistically, creatively support these young kids. This was a further step in the grooming of these children to then have them be obedient followers of Acosta later in life. You think you're going to go to higher education? Really? No, think again. Quite a few young kids who wanted to seek out higher education, they were barred from doing so. Here's a darker theme. There was this big claim that Acosta was all-knowing, all-powerful, and he could read your thoughts. He could read your mind. He also loved you unconditionally. That was used to get away with a lot of abuse. If people tried to speak up, if they felt something was wrong, if followers thought this is not right, you could always fall back on your tried and true, yes, but you're just a mere mortal. You don't really understand. He's doing this for the greater good, for your good, for things that you don't even know about. Since there is unconditional love extended to everyone around him, he could do no wrong. Unfortunately, that doing no wrong also included handjobs, oral sex, right up to the point where one of the people that have come forward and has shared their story, they had to draw the line at saying no to Acosta wanting to anally penetrate them. What I've come to realize, having heard many stories, having spoken to a number of people, that the boys were off limits for anyone because Acosta wanted them for himself. Just like I want this piece of fruit entirely for myself. You wanted a piece of fruit? No, it's all mine. Delicious, pure fruit that has not been touched or sullied by anyone else. Delicious. Virgin kiwi. One of the stories is of a boy who was taken out of the United States and into the community in Belgium, helped by well-meaning people because he was not being supported by his own family. But behind closed doors, according to his interview in this investigation, was sexually abused many times before he turned 18. Wait, you were disgusted already? Oh, goodness. Have some more tea because there's more. You see, it didn't just stop at the age of consent, which is already pretty disgusting to begin with, even if it is 16 with a 60-year-old man in a position of power. One of the people interviewed in this article was 15 when Guru Acosta held his genitals and told him, "I will teach you how to feel loved." Can you imagine seeing that just out in the wild? This is ridiculous. The article that was released includes audio fragments.
Then you came along, and suddenly there's something different here.
Yes.
It's not a father-son thing completely. It's not a guru-disciple thing completely. It's not a lover completely. It's a unique relationship. The intimacy that we have, the loving, the cuddling, the openness of man to man without it being totally and completely homosexual. So that this relationship is an unusual one. It could be seen as being perverse and classically pedophilia or whatever one would want to think. But only you and I think pretty sure your father and mother would understand it.
We were told that Acosta was divine, that he could read our minds, and that the closer we were to him, the more blessed we were. So being close to him was the highest blessing. Some of the men that had sex with Acosta as young adults refer to that experience as thinking that this was some sort of rite of passage, some sort of blessing. You were blessed to be invited into bed with him. You were blessed if he wanted to touch you. You were blessed if he kept you close. Would you say no? Put yourself in the position of a child growing up there. I never experienced the worst of that. Never really felt compelled to get close to Acosta, nor did I really drink the Kool-Aid. When I was 17, Acosta tried to harvest me as well. He had publicly mentioned my name, declaring that it was my time to join the inner circle. I remember one evening where he showed me artistic nude photos of himself and then proceeded to have a conversation with me about what I liked. Specifically, he wanted to know what I looked at when I masturbated. In my naivety, I answered honestly with, "I like girls." It was only later that I realized the creepiness of that situation, especially in talking with these other victims, speaking out about often long-winded process of love bombing and grooming that happened. It seems to be that in this pattern that this investigation has uncovered, that there was a method that was applied. Now, I did not know about this sexual abuse happening, and neither did many of the adults, certainly not my parents, and there are many more, that if they would know that this kind of behavior was occurring, they would have walked away right away. However, evil does not come by itself. There were so many adults around that could have felt this creepy behavior, that could have seen some of that darkness. But unfortunately, these adults in this organization either were blissfully blind or they're willfully ignorant. Now, to those people that have had a wonderful time, love that for you. That does not excuse or justify the abuse. I want to address the spiritual community at large. For someone like Acosta, public image is everything. This organization presents itself as a yoga and are using the age-old practices and techniques that many yogis all across the world know and love. Across the Hindu and Buddhist spectrum, these are ancient, well-meaning traditions. They were co-opted by this man to create an ideology and a community where he could selectively groom little boys to then later inappropriately touch them. Allegedly, of course. For many of these victims, that trauma never went away, and they tried to deal with that on their own. Sometimes their own parents didn't even believe them, let alone all of the other members who still drank the Kool-Aid and think that Acosta is God on earth. As is also mentioned in the article, people are still very afraid, not just for the threat of emotional revenge and how somehow Acosta has magical powers, but also for the threat of physical violence. I recall back in the day when I was growing up in Siddha Shiva Yoga, they erected a security force where yogis, meditating, chanting, trying to attain enlightenment yogis, were taught Krav Maga and other combat tactics to protect Acosta because there were threats out there. Anyways, I've done my personal healing. I never sought out to blame the past and the environment that I grew up in for my failings later in life. I also never set out to do this. I just happened to be in the right place, right time to do something about it. But I'm not going to walk away while people that I grew up with continue to suffer without any accountability having to be taken. That will not do. If being not anonymous gives just one person the strength to walk away from an abusive environment, to walk away from a cult, that's worth it to me. So here we are. There's still much left unsaid. Those stories deserve to be heard. Because this article is mostly just a story about the men, about the children growing up in Siddha Shiva Yoga. Adults were exploited in different ways. Anyways, this has been some wonderful tea. This is Tea Time with Boris, and I'll catch you in the next episode.